What if the sleep you lost last month is still affecting your health today? Not just making you tired, but actually changing how your immune cells function at a genetic level. I'm going to walk you through some research that fundamentally changed how I think about sleep, and why hitting snooze might matter more than hitting the gym. This is Better Health Faster, where we translate the latest research into strategies you can actually use. Let's talk about what your immune system remembers. Here's what caught my attention. Researchers at Oregon Health and Science University analyzed decades of data to identify what actually predicts how long we live. They looked at diet, they looked at exercise, they examined loneliness, alcohol, and dozens of other lifestyle factors. And one thing stood out above almost everything else: sleep. As a behavioral driver for life expectancy, sleep stood out more than diet, more than exercise, more than loneliness, more than any factor except smoking. That alone would be significant, but then I found the research that explains why, and it has to do with changes happening inside your immune cells that may never fully reverse. To understand what's happening, we need to talk about your immune system, specifically cells called monocytes. These are your body's first responders. When you get an infection, monocytes rush to the site, they engulf pathogens, they send inflammatory signals, they coordinate your entire immune response. These cells are supposed to activate when you need them, and then calm down when the threat passes. That's healthy inflammation. It protects you. But here's where sleep enters the picture. Your immune system doesn't just passively exist, it actively resets and recalibrates while you sleep. During deep sleep, your body produces cytokines, signaling proteins that help regulate inflammation. Sleep is when your immune system performs its maintenance routine. When you don't get enough sleep, that maintenance gets interrupted. Your monocytes don't get the signal to stand down. They stay in an activated inflammatory state. And this is where it gets concerning. A short-term sleep deficit might resolve once you catch up, but chronic sleep deprivation appears to leave permanent marks. According to research published in the Journal of Immunology in 2025, prolonged sleep deprivation leads to changes in the DNA structure of immune cells, changes that persist even after recovery sleep. These aren't temporary changes. The researchers found that these cells retain what they call epigenetic marks of inflammatory activation, essentially a lasting memory of sleep deprivation written into their DNA. To be clear about what epigenetics means here, it's not changing your genetic code, but changing how genes are expressed. Which genes get turned on or off? Which proteins get made? In sleep-deprived individuals, certain inflammatory genes stay switched on even after sleep is restored. The immune cells keep producing inflammatory signals when they shouldn't. The body becomes more prone to inflammatory diseases and cardiovascular conditions even after sleep recovery. Those epigenetic marks don't simply erase themselves. This helps explain something researchers have long observed. Insomnia patients exhibit a chronic inflammatory state. It's not just that they feel tired, their immune systems are measurably different. Studies show significant changes in monocyte and macrophage quantity and function in people with chronic insomnia. They also show increased inflammatory cytokine secretion, the alarm signals that should be reserved for actual threats. This chronic low-grade inflammation has consequences far beyond feeling run down. It's been linked to accelerated aging, cognitive decline, and increased risk of chronic disease. The research published in Annals of Neurosciences explains this connection clearly. Insomnia and insufficient sleep are closely linked to weight gain, obesity, and metabolic diseases. The mechanism involves immune imbalance leading to chronic inflammation in adipose tissue, your body fat. This inflammation interferes with normal metabolic function. So we have immune cells that remember sleep deprivation, chronic inflammation that doesn't resolve, and metabolic consequences that compound over time. It's a cascade effect. But here's something that gives me hope. Researchers are also discovering factors that influence sleep quality that we can actually modify, including one surprising player: your gut microbiome. Research from the American Society for Microbiology found that better sleep is associated with higher abundance of bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids. These short-chain fatty acids are produced when beneficial bacteria ferment dietary fiber. They have anti-inflammatory effects throughout the body, including on immune function. Conversely, insomnia is linked with lower abundances of these health-promoting microbes. It's a bidirectional relationship. Poor sleep may harm your microbiome, and a depleted microbiome may worsen sleep. This suggests that gut health interventions might indirectly support better sleep, and better sleep might in turn support a healthier microbiome. They reinforce each other. Now, let me return to that Oregon Health and Science University study, because the findings deserve closer examination. This wasn't a small study. It analyzed data spanning decades. The researchers were specifically looking at behavioral factors, things within our control that predict life expectancy. They wanted to identify what matters most, and sleep emerged as the standout factor. Not just slightly more important than diet or exercise, but substantially more predictive of longevity than almost any other behavior. Only smoking had a stronger negative association with life expectancy. That's a striking finding. We know smoking is harmful, but we often underestimate the impact of chronic poor sleep. The implication is clear. If you're optimizing for longevity, sleep should be at the top of your priority list, not something you sacrifice to make time for other healthy behaviors. I want to pause here and acknowledge something. Many people don't choose to sleep poorly. Insomnia is real. Work demands are real. Caregiving responsibilities are real. This research isn't meant to add guilt to an already difficult situation. It's meant to help us understand the stakes, so we can make sleep a priority when we do have choices. And it's worth noting that the research distinguishes between occasional sleep disruption and chronic sleep deprivation. An occasional bad night isn't creating permanent epigenetic changes. The concerning findings relate to sustained chronic sleep insufficiency, weeks and months of inadequate rest. That's where the lasting immune changes appear to develop. So what can you actually do with this information? Let's get practical. First and most importantly, treat sleep as non-negotiable infrastructure, not optional luxury. The research suggests you can't reliably compensate for chronic sleep deprivation with weekend catch-up sleep. Recovery sleep may not fully reverse the immune changes we discussed. Instead, aim for consistent sleep timing. Your immune system follows circadian rhythms, and regularity helps those rhythms function properly. Consider your gut health as part of your sleep strategy. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi support the bacteria associated with better sleep. Fiber is also key. It's what feeds those beneficial bacteria. Vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains all contribute to a microbiome that may support better sleep. Create a sleep-supportive environment. The basics matter: cool temperature, darkness, and removing devices from the bedroom, or at least silencing them. Address sleep issues early rather than accepting chronic poor sleep as your normal. If you struggled with sleep for months, that's worth discussing with a healthcare provider. Be aware that some common habits significantly disrupt sleep. Caffeine after noon, alcohol close to bedtime, and intense exercise too late in the evening can all interfere. Wind-down routines genuinely help. 30 minutes of screen-free time before bed allows your brain to transition. Reading, gentle stretching, or simply sitting quietly all work. If you found this information useful, consider subscribing. We cover evidence-based health topics like this every week, always grounded in actual research. One final piece of research worth mentioning: the 2025 review of top sleep studies highlighted the growing recognition that sleep quality matters as much as quantity. Getting 7 hours of fragmented light sleep isn't equivalent to 7 hours of consolidated deep sleep. The architecture of your sleep matters, not just the duration. This suggests that interventions improving sleep quality, like treating sleep apnea or reducing nighttime disturbances, may be as important as simply spending more time in bed. So if you're sleeping enough hours but still waking exhausted, that's worth investigating. Sleep disorders are common and treatable, but often undiagnosed. I think what strikes me most about this research is the permanence. We're used to thinking of the body as resilient. Sleep off a bad week, recover from overindulgence, bounce back. But the immune system, it turns out, keeps records. It remembers, and chronic sleep deprivation appears to write entries that don't get erased. That's not meant to frighten you. It's meant to reframe how we think about sleep, not as a luxury or a nice-to-have, but as fundamental biological maintenance. To summarize what we've covered, sleep deprivation creates lasting epigenetic changes in immune cells. These cells retain inflammatory programming even after recovery sleep. Chronic inflammation follows, contributing to metabolic disease, cardiovascular risk, and accelerated aging. And sleep predicts longevity more than almost any other controllable factor. The good news? Supporting your gut microbiome, maintaining consistent sleep schedules, and addressing sleep disorders can all help. Small changes in sleep habits may yield disproportionate benefits. This content is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult your doctor before making changes to your health routine. I'm glad you spent this time with me. Take care of your sleep. Your immune system is paying attention. Until next time.